If you're still here with me learning the deck, the Faeries Oracle deck, that is, thank you so much for coming along for the ride. It's been interesting, and I've been off for a couple of days because I've had the cough. I just recovered out of the blue, actually. Been having vivid dreams, and I pulled some cards, but I couldn't record because, well, I wasn't sick with the cough at the time, but I wanted to record, but my voice was not projecting loud enough that even a semi-pro microphone can't pick up the sound. So it's been that kind of situation, and I thought I'd better listen to my instincts when it's telling me to rest. So today I've fallen off the numbering grid, obviously. Supposed to tackle this whole thing in a more lighthearted spirit. And we're here with number 36, the Spirit Dancer. And the Journeyman, card number 15. On the back of the deck is Chihobya, who's been showing up successively for me the last few days. Chihobya is really about, all the monsters in your closets. And when it's upright, it means the universe is telling me not to play to my fears, not to act out of trauma, to make decisions out of past trauma. And those are good things going forward, especially with these cards over here. Spirit Dancer, card 36. Self-expression, freedom, exploration. The Spirit Dancer understands both sides of self-expression. In the first stage, we get our inner vision, feelings, and creative impulse out into the world through our art, whatever it is. Then our expressions are reflected back to us from the mirror of other people's perceptions, and we discover what our art awakens in them. So this more or less 500-word section of the copy describes the whole design process, the creative cycle. Either it's the cycle that you're into, the design circle, the design triangle. It doesn't matter which one. Just that we follow a set of several stages in order to complete that cycle. So to continue, first and most important for many of us, we learn, grow, and lead more satisfying lives if we have ways of expressing our inner world. Such expressions can be a way of helping others better understand our feelings and experiences. Or they can be a way of getting pain out, where we can look at it and let it begin to heal. Creative expression is a method of exploring our own truth, bringing it into the light so we can see it more clearly, and maintaining sanity. The key words here are explore, experiment, and express. As this very cryptically remarked to one oracle reader, the death of Spirit Dancer is perfection. So if you keep trying to be anally retentive and trying to be a perfectionist about an art piece you're doing, it kills the Spirit Dancer. Second, creative expression is a way of sharing and letting others see more of our true selves. It's a way that we can reach out from this illusion of separation and reaffirm our essential connections with one another. When we share a dance, a painting, or a poem with others, we do so with the hope that they'll see something of what we've put into it and that their experience will echo ours in some way. But if we've done well, we'll be able to add something to their experience. At the same time, we understand that their slant on things is a bit different, and that what they reflect back to us by their response will perhaps contain something we haven't seen about our own experiences, a new insight, a different view, an expansion of our picture of reality. So the side of creative expression, the sharing part, enriches us in a different way than the actual creation. Jessica writes that she's never written a poem or sculpted something without the experience changing her, then changing her again when she shared it with others. It's the inner core of true feelings and understanding within us. She wants us to clarify our vision, find the creative potential that lies hidden in paradox, confusion, and chaos, and turn these into a free-flowing, finely balanced, evolving order. She wants to aid us in making our best fantasies real. She also is very enthusiastic about helping us to learn to dance well with the fairies. If we don't already know how. If we don't already know how. And if we do know how, she would still be delighted to dance with us just for the fun of it. Step out boldly. Now is the time to focus and really concentrate on a project or process, especially when involving the creative arts. Spontaneity, balanced by self-discipline, will help us achieve our goals. Strive for elegance and simplicity. This is a time to bring out and share qualities that we've nurtured in private. In the reverse, self-absorbed and obsessed, the reversed spirit dancer has become entangled in her own unexpressed and perhaps inexpressible fantasies. She feels angry and driven, and may be unable to express her feelings in any way except through destruction. Alternatively, this card may speak of the artist's block. The cure for that is to just create. Even if the creation falls far short of our goals, even if it's trite or trivial, just do it. It's a matter of priming the pump until the waters of creativity, emotion, and inspiration flow freely. Card 15. The Journeyman. Adventure, independence, polishing of skills, travel. All of the great ones, the saints, the bodhisattvas, and all of those who are filled by the spiritual light have been on this journey. I know the Aborigines, they have this thing called the walkabout. Or in ethnic tribes, they have the warrior class, usually. They have this rite of passage for warriors. They went into the wilderness, stepping like fools off of the safe paths into the waiting hands of their gods and goddesses. Yeah, exactly. The Fool card in tarot. This is the journey of life, a pilgrimage that begins in ignorant trust, passes through all of the doubts, fears, ups and downs, probably all of the delusions, and certainly all of the confusions. Through it, we learn slowly, painfully, a new kind of trust, a trust in the process detached from the goal. Our young Angus Journeyman, bless him, is stepping out on the journey of life, positively glowing with enthusiasm. Even his toes sparkle, right? Isn't that so cute? Bright, handsome, and educated, he has completed his apprenticeship in fairy crafts and magics, but he's not yet achieved true mastery of his trade. To accomplish this, he must leave the protection of his master and step out onto his path as an independent journeyman craftsman. He is testing himself and his knowledge in the world. He hopes to eventually achieve the status of master maker. Right now, he knows a lot of facts. The journeyman has all the basic skills, but probably knows less than he thinks he does. He's about to learn about the skills of survival. At least he doesn't need to learn how to iron his own shirts, because, well, we can see he's not wearing anything. Angus still has lovely, playful, childlike qualities. An Oracle online group member notes that Angus is playing balance the ball on the stick with the moon, and adds that he seems to have no constraints, sets no boundaries on what he can do. And because he is magical and doesn't set such limitations on himself, he is able to walk on air or water or through the hills, all with the moon nicely balanced both on his stick and in the sky. Our young Angus must learn to care for himself. No one is looking over his shoulder to see that he does his work right and eats properly. Angus may take chances and even make mistakes sometimes, as we all do, but this is how we learn. He's now confronting and being confronted by the real world. Here he will discover that excuses don't buy bread, and that the quality and integrity of one's work and actions are what counts. But he has been well taught and pretty well knows this already. Don't tell him I told you, but Angus sometimes wears a false mustache, hoping that it makes him look more mature. He has romantic dreams of being a great hero, of becoming the supreme master of his craft, and of winning a fairy princess. Some of these dreams will come true, perhaps even all of them. Here we see an innocent being walking trustfully into a situation for which he is not fully prepared, and indeed cannot be fully prepared, or for which his preparation is as yet untested by reality. He is innocent of previous practical experience of the path he is now treading, or the realm of life onto which he is moving. The card could be called Innocence Encounters Reality, which is by no means a bad thing. Okay. There's a portion here where Jessica talks about Angus, the journeyman, having a fairy godmother who steps in whenever help is needed. But, a fairy godmother who's silently watching over you, aiding you, and comes when you need all the help and gives you a push when you need it. It's just a reminder that we are blessed and cared for if we allow ourselves to be. The world is before Angus with smiles and teeth. Angus has optimism, cheerfulness, magic skills, and a diligent fairy godmother. He grows within us when we step bravely into the unknown, developing our potentials with hope and optimism and an open heart. Adventure, independence, travel. A long path ahead. This card speaks to the need to perfect skills in working and living, but it acknowledges having a sound grounding in the basics. Optimistic, innocent, and willing to learn, Angus also shows us that intuition serves us well, but only if we pay attention to it. Sometimes we're operating from theory alone, and our knowledge may or may not be well grounded in reality. This card does not necessarily refer exclusively to beginnings. It can also signify a progression along a path, moving into the unknown from the known, a new phase into an ongoing process. The card may also represent untested concepts or ideas and suggest a need for balance between the intuitive and rational as one approaches the unknown. Consider where you're going. What are your long-term goals? What are you doing that is helping you to move toward them? In the reverse for this card, when this energy is blocked, we may feel unable to move forward. There can be two reasons for this. It may be that such a journey is inappropriate at this time and should be delayed until certain conditions are met, or it may mean that we are delaying ourselves with our own fear. If you are satisfied that the journey is in the right direction for you, prepare for it carefully. And once you have done so, go for it. Waiting will not make it easier. If it's just fear holding you back, take a long draught from the chalice of courage and step out boldly. Ooh, interestingly, the chalice of courage showed up a few days ago as well, which means it has been offered. In my context anyway, the chalice of courage has been offered, and now this card signifies that I should take the first steps going forward. Right side card meaning going to the future, and with Chihopya here, I guess it's signifying that I may be facing some fears, but discern whether the fear is based on my past traumas, and if not, to boldly go forward. Interesting. But twisted, back to the reverse meaning of the card. When twisted, this energy can involve pretending to ourselves that we are moving forward, but in fact, taking a dozen inappropriate paths in order to avoid the one truly right path. The name of the game is distraction and misdirection. Both are a kind of false magic that gets us nowhere. At its worst, this card reversed can indicate an inappropriate journey, possibly even as undesirable as the path of destruction for self or others. Consider carefully where you are going here. Consider your major, long-term goals in life and ask yourself how this journey helps you to move toward them. Is it perhaps a distraction, a detour, or a fatal stepping off of a cliff? Only we ourselves can decide whether or not we really want to take another step in this direction, and why. Card 18, the Lady of the Harvest. Completion, grief, loss, harvest, release. After we've experienced the nurturing and fulfillment of the bright mother, the Lady of the Harvest, also called the Old Woman or Crone, helps us to let go of what is finished and liberate ourselves to move on to the next phase of our activities and relationships. As in the natural world, the old becomes compost for new growth in our lives. The Lady helps us to adapt to change and release. Often we associate the Lady with loss, regret, and grief, and often we are right to do so. The basic phases of grief are shock, denial, anger, guilt, emotional storm, acceptance, regaining of perspective, the beginning of healing, and the deepening of our capacity for love. The Lady of the Harvest understands grief and is patient and kind as we go through the sometimes painful process of letting go. We may well need to be patient and kind with ourselves. We should note here that the grieving process is the same for little losses and large ones. Only the time scale and the intensity of the emotions vary, but they vary enormously. We might go through all the grieving stages of a small loss in a few minutes, while it may take years for a greater loss. On the other side of this letting go business, there are many things that make us lighter and happier when we release them. Old traumas, tasks, or stages in our lives that we are glad to have finished, unhappy relationships, or feelings that cause us pain and inhibit our growth. Sometimes we simply comfortably finish with one aspect of our lives and move on to the next happily anticipated one. Such releases are cause for celebration, and the old woman joyfully celebrates with us. In this card, we see both the patient acceptance of loss and the joyful celebration of liberation. When we liberate something in ourselves or in the world, we grow to be more like the Lady of the Harvest, developing her capacities within us. Starter reading. It's time to accept change, to move on to the next phase. Power and strength in the present and future come from releasing the past. This is a time of liberation, and we might as well cooperate with it. It will happen, whether you want it to or not. Release and liberation may be painful or joyful, depending on the circumstances. Cry if you need to. Be joyful if that is appropriate, but in either case, trust the process. Acknowledge what you feel and prepare to move on. In the reverse, when we block the liberating energy of the Lady, we may refuse to accept a loss or cling to outgrown pains, traumas, or limiting ideas. We may deny reality. Shock and denial are the first stages of grief, but we need to move on past that to eventually gain a healthy balance in the present. If we stay in denial, the grief cannot heal. Denial can be the denial of reality or the denial of our own feelings. Either one prevents us from moving on to healing. The universe moves on. We have no choice really but to move on with it. When twisted, this card signifies the energy of release can move in various directions. One possibility can be the letting go program, an automatic process like a computer program where we compulsively push away things we actually want and need. Another twist on this is to turn away from the things in our lives that give us satisfaction, fulfillment, or joy because we cannot have the one thing we want. So it seems reasonable to have nothing at all. This kind of sulking can easily be carried to an extreme. The destructive mode of release can be summarized by the bumper sticker saying, "If you love something, let it go. If it doesn't come back, hunt it down and kill it." This is the "if I can't have it, no one will" attitude. From the outside, such attitudes seem obviously stupid and selfish. But to someone caught in one of the less rational stages of the grieving process, they may seem the only solution. A solution that is not a solution to anything at all. Food for thought, this one. Definitely a lot to think about. I hope that these readings have been as enlightening for you as it's been for me. From the Faeries Oracle by Brian Froud and text by Jessica Macbeth.